Hey, your podcast without us, horrible.
Amazing.
The
What?
Amazing.
Terrible.
I thought it was good.
Oh God, I didn't learn one thing from it.
Oh, you're tripping.
I went to walk my dog on Dry Creek, and I was like, David, God, they need us, man.
Hey, we got Santa Claus is coming to town, man. What are you talking about?
Hey,
Santa Claus is coming.
Santa.
We're just gonna dress Aaron up.
Did you know Mariah Carey, for that one song, makes $72 million every year?
Yeah.
Every year.
Million?
Every year
She
for
does
that
not
one
make
song.
72 million.
Yes, she does.
No, it was like 25 million a year.
72 million is more. We should be a billionaire. All right.
All right.
Dive in.
What's going on?
It's a rare condition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say, is even harder to find.
So last time we raffled off some gift cards for people that listened. So our next giveaway is going to be a carriage ride in Los Gatos
For four.
For 4.
Yep.
And a Fantasia Lights
Oh.
coveted ticket.
There you go. Very
for
cool.
December 15th.
Right.
All you have to do is guess our combined weight
Okay.
without going over. Closest
Aaron's got his
person-
calculator out.
Closest person wins. I'm going to start with the market minute because
Yep.
we are approaching the first week of December. Inventory extremely anemic, right? So total active Santa Clara County, 751.
Wow.
That's
Oh
it.
my goodness.
751. And if you look back a couple podcasts ago, I think we predicted about 600 homes on the market
Yeah.
by year's end. So I think we'll end up there. 282 townhome and condos.
Wow.
Like
So
that's
we're
it.
at 1,000 or less than 1,000 total.
We are less than 1,000 total. Pendings, single family, 484, and only 139
Yeah,
pending.
again, that goes
condo
back to the whole
townhomes.
thing of where the market's at right now as far as the activity we're still seeing, where everything's a crash and doom and gloom across the nation and everything's down in value. And I know in our area, certain areas are, but
Yeah.
still, you look at Los Gatos, we got less than 30 homes on the market. You got less than 1,000 countywide. And
Yeah.
that's still going to continue to drive the market.
And to your point, for the first time this year, over the last 7 days, our pending deals and our sold transactions are greater than the amount of properties hitting the market. So we're actually selling more than we're adding to the market right now.
So again, those are kind of stats that you're seeing in a very active market. Normally, if we go back a year,
Yeah.
2 years, 3 years ago, those are the type of numbers that we would have seen back then as well.
Yeah.
So what's changed? I mean, if anything,
Rates have dropped a little bit. And I think the combination of buyers that have been waiting for rates to drop and then people not putting their homes on the market
Right.
has caused this uptick in activity. I mean, we were talking about this at lunch.
Right.
You're getting ready to put a house on the market in Los Gatos potentially first week of December, where that's unheard of
Right,
before. I
right.
mean, Ben and I were just mentioning how many days had it been since no new properties in Los Gatos?
Yeah, there hasn't been a property under $3 million listed in LG for now 14
and
days.
we're going to be right around $2 million. So
Yeah.
we're the golden goose.
Yeah, so if you guys want to get into Los Gatos under $2 million, let us know. And more importantly, we still have 175 single-family home and townhome condos in Santa Clara County that are off market that you won't find on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com
Right,
that we have access to. So there is still some inventory out there.
Right.
If you think you've seen it all, reach out to us. I'm sure we can find you something different.
And those off-market properties, for the listeners, those are very motivated sellers right now. The sellers who have their properties on members only during the holiday season rather not show it during the holidays and sell it off-market. So
Yeah.
if you are interested in trying to get those deals, it is a very healthy time to do
Now,
that.
why would somebody keep it off market if they're motivated?
Well, one, during the holidays, there could be honestly, there can be a lot of different answers to that question. There could be
Just give me one.
death, there
Give
could
me
be a
one.
divorce, there could
it's
be
only
holiday.
it's only a 30-minute podcast.
Yeah, holiday moving around. But for whatever reason, they still want to show it to the public in the midst of it all.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's because it's the holidays, right? Your house is in flux. If you're decorating, if you're getting your Amazon shipments, you don't want a bunch of just random people traipsing in and out. But you want to let agents know that you are serious about selling. And if you have a serious, committed buyer, that just by not putting it on the market, it just does away with the looky-loos, right? You don't have the neighbors coming through your house or some random people during the holidays where you have gifts and decorations and things like that.
Right.
So just bring the motivated buyers.
And these are properties that people won't know about unless they call us.
Yeah, they are not on Zillow. They're not on Redfin.
Basically, I think it ensures that everyone coming through the house is qualified. They're coming through with another real estate agent. And for those of you who are wondering what is an off-market sale, basically, when Ben said members only, being a member of the real estate board, we have access to a back-end list that no one can see on Redfin, Zillow, Trulia.
Right.
And we are able to share that with clients.
Well, and I would say in addition to that, our brokerage maintains a list that isn't even on there in addition to our own list that we have with sellers. And, it's interesting. Generally, I oppose from a seller standpoint selling off market because I think you could be leaving money on the table. Why? You would in a ascending market, right, where the market's going up on you. Where now, listen, we know the peak of the market was March of last year, and if somebody's willing to give you a good number, it's easier for us to determine what that fair market value, what a fair price is for a property today than maybe it was a year ago. Right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially last year or earlier this year, you were just kind of throwing numbers out and seeing what would stick, right? You're going against 36 other offers. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, now we're entering an interesting time in the market where prices are coming down, but loan limits are going up, right? So beginning in January, FHA, which for those of you that don't know, is a government-backed lending program. For our area, in only a handful of areas throughout the United States, they are increasing the loan limit that they will fund up to $1,089,000.
That is incredible.
Which means you can get in for 3.5% down. You don't have to have a bunch of money in the bank for reserves. You don't have to have perfect credit. But what's even more interesting than that is you can buy a fourplex right now with 3.5% down at basically $2.1 million.
Wow.
So for a guy like Ben,
$2.1 million.
Yeah, explain this. We'll throw some numbers up on the screen here.
Yeah, we'll do some house hacking here. So there are a number of fourplexes on the market right now, less than $2 million. Ben could get his two roommates. They could do FHA financing for 3.5% down, and the bank will lend up to $2,064,000 for that fourplex.
Now, how much? Yeah, with the property
Fourplex.
And I know
but there's two applicants.
You could do one applicant. Doesn't matter. Ben could do it on his own. Live in one unit with Lauren. She'd like that, and then rent out the other 3 to offset the mortgage.
But how are you getting $2 million?
Because FHA loan limits on 4-unit properties
goes
up. Yeah, so it's a different loan limit for single family home, duplex, triplex, fourplex. So the max is basically $2.1 million.
A little over $60,000.
Yeah,
and I know people are asking at home, listen to this, how much would the mortgage insurance be on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, and I would say reach out to one of our lenders.
Nice.
It's definitely up there. I don't think you'd have positive cash flow.
Good answer.
Yeah, you may not, but we're still seeing pressure on rents, right? It's still extremely expensive place to live. But if you found a fourplex that needed some love, right, as those units became vacant, do some sweat equity, fix them up, increase the rents, and you could be cash flow neutral over time. But even if you're negative, you still can depreciate the asset. You got the interest deduction. I mean, all of those things.
And the FHA loan limits are county by county or city by city?
It is county by county.
Right. So it's interesting on the rental side of it that you just mentioned. Santa Clara County right now, our vacancy rate is only 2.9%. 2.9%, which is incredible. And we've seen a resurgence in rents, in the cost of rents and that vacancy absorption just because the buyers are kind of backing out a little bit with those interest rates increasing and the lack of inventory as well.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, Willow Glen on the higher side for rent, like just 2 years ago, was about $6,000, $6,500.
Sure.
Now there's a lot of places, Willow Glen, Los Gatos even, getting $9,000, $10,000, $11,000, 80 applicants.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that increase.
But with the loan limits going up, I think it's really beneficial because so many people couldn't get what they actually wanted because it was at like 8 something, right?
Before it was actually last year was 970 something, somewhere around there.
Well, but again, the benefit now is sellers are actually open to that type of financing.
Right.
Where a
Where
year
last
ago
year,
you'd have
no
to be
chance.
competing with it. Now people are more open to that, right?
Because the sellers need to fix, or the buyers have to have certain things fixed to the home before they're able to close the loan.
Okay, so no.
Yeah, FHA.
So there,
Read the new contract.
the FHA appraiser will go out and look for health and safety issues. All right. If they don't find any, right, if everything looks good, they don't have to fix anything. Now, on a VA loan, there is Section 1 work that must be completed prior to close of escrow.
Yeah.
But as long as you're not buying a dilapidated home or a fourplex, you're not going to have any
The
issue.
last FHA house that we sold, we had to fix a deck, and it was on septic, so we had to replace the septic tank.
Okay, well,
Because there was probably issues with the septic.
yeah, that's a unique
Well,
situation.
then don't shit all over me when I say that.
Is that a septic joke?
Delaptic.
Nice.
Dilapidated.
All right.
I like that.
I'd like to
Dilapidated.
move on with
Yeah.
The top 10. Bah, bah, bah.
it is kind of a list here, and I think I do have 10 items here to discuss. These are some of the new laws that are coming through and some of the revisions they've made to the laws, right? So question for you here, how many new laws does the state of California kick out on an annual basis?
Annual?
Yeah.
Too many.
I only know 'cause
About
I saw your sheet.
1,000. This year was 997.
1,000? I thought I
1,000.
read 100.
No. You
Oh,
didn't
not
read my notes.
cheating.
How many of them are related to real estate, Aaron?
100.
There you go. About 100, a little over 100 of them are.
So
I'm
1,000
just going to hit on
and
these real quick. So SB 9, they continue to make revisions to SB 9 that are really loosening things up. It's really going to make the whole single-family SFR zoning go away. I mean, right now on a single-family lot, you could pretty much get 4 houses on that. Now, all of the cities are kind of catching up to it. So, for instance, right now, Los Gatos, you can easily push through an SB 9 lot split or whatever. You can actually do a flag lot that Los Gatos hasn't done for years. But Montessorino, which is a sister community to Los Gatos, still hasn't really got up to that par yet. So, a lot of things that are coming with that. Local agencies right now must act on an ADU application within 60 days. And if they can't complete it or if they're denying it, they have to give a detailed reason why to allow the applicant to correct those items. HOAs can no longer prohibit rentals of over 30 days. So those HOA developments, and David and I were talking about it, the challenge with that is you have that owner to renter occupancy ratio, right, that you're concerned about. So a lot of these are going to have a variety of issues on what side of the fence you're on, right? Depending on how far this thing goes. But yeah, so those developments where they say, hey, you can only have 20 renters in here, or you can only have a 20% renter ratio, they can't prohibit it anymore.
And does the state have the ultimate jurisdiction over each city?
Yes.
Or town?
Yes.
Oh, so
Yeah.
Los Gatos can't just say, no, we're
No,
not
that's
approving
correct.
anything.
Yeah, state will override that.
Oh, wow.
Other ones that are coming through have to do, we talk about REO properties foreclosures. We know that's really way out there in the distance. But when and if that comes around with REO properties now, only qualified buyers, flippers, investors cannot purchase those properties for up to 45 days. They have to be offered out to nonprofits, the existing tenant. The owner has the ability to bid on the property as well, but no investors can purchase those properties for up to 45 days.
So if it's an end user, they want to live in it, that's fine.
Occupied,
Yeah.
owner-occupant, yeah, absolutely.
And that was because of the craze of the last 2-3
Yeah,
years.
exactly. Right.
I
Again,
did see something about that.
the state is encouraging home ownership, right? It's that whole affordable housing scenario that we're caught into, which, by the way, it's really interesting. As much as the state is pushing that out, recent polls are showing that only 51% of respondents in the state are actually supportive of high-density SB 9 type of bills and stuff, where that means 49% are not. So it's interesting how they're running with that. SB 897 opens up the potential for these ADUs to go 2 stories, for each ADU to go 2 stories. And these are laws that are already passed. What they've done is they've increased the minimum height requirements. This one's amazing. So AB 345 requires local agencies to allow an existing ADU to be sold separately from the primary residence.
What?
That is crazy. Look it up. They just
Hold on a
signed it.
second.
Okay, well then who pays the property tax on that ADU?
How do they split it
There's
up?
no-
Well,
it's one parcel.
I'm
You're gonna get
assuming it's got to be
a
a
new
lot
APN.
split on it to get the APN on it. But
Who
yeah,
would
I
want to
mean,
just buy an ADU?
Dude,
and
there's some awesome corner
Sure.
houses in Willow Glen where you
Sure.
could buy the ADU with another
Well,
backyard.
no, I mean if an ADU is selling for $500,000, I'd rather buy an
that over a
ADU
condo.
than a condo
Get your
with
own
an
park.
HOA
well, again,
and HOA
it's
dues.
providing affordable housing, right? Let's see here. AB 1484 prohibits any CC&Rs from restricting the construction of an ADU on a lot zone SFR and common interest developments. So if you look at areas like Rinconada Hills that we have, or Silver Creek, the HOAs cannot, the CC&Rs HOA cannot stop somebody from doing an ADU. Short-term rental penalties are increased. It used to be if you had a first violation on a short-term rental, it was $100. Now it's $1,500. The second violation goes from $200 to $3,000. The third violation in a year goes from $500 to $5,000. Here's one: AB 1346. Sale of gas-powered leaf blowers and small off-road vehicles will be banned as of 2024.
That's a lot. That's what Los
2000
Gatos already did, right?
Leaf
Well,
blowers?
Yeah.
what about like razors and off-road
Yeah.
Polaris vehicles?
Wait,
and stuff?
what? Read it
Yeah.
again.
Small off-road vehicles banned by 2024. Gas-powered leaf blowers and small off-road vehicles banned by 2024.
Why did they just throw a leaf blower in there?
And the most random one I came across was SB 395, where roadkill is now legal to collect and serve.
Yes.
Times are tough. Inflation.
Yeah.
Wait, you can't buy a side by side?
He's still stuck on that.
Side by
I
side.
mean, how stupid.
So interesting stuff that's happening, and
I'm moving to Texas.
I think we need to dive deeper on, not now in this conversation, but SB9 and the benefits that has to our.
Because it really hasn't taken off.
I think it's way less sexy in reality than it sounds on paper. I mean, it sounds great, but then, we have clients right now in property management that bought multi-unit properties, put ADUs on them, and then can't rent them out.
Well, I think that's because there what you're doing is you're just creating so much density on a small lot that who the hell wants to live there, right? But where it does benefit is like if you're doing a development, like we did Dee and I did a lot split last year here in Los Gatos. One of the neighbors contested it, so now they're suing the town, they're suing us. By the way, we have to pay for the town's defense, which is absolutely ridiculous. Lot split hasn't been contested in the town of Los Gatos for over 20 years. But we can now pull that and go SB9 and get a slam dunk on it, right?
You could put 4 houses on it.
Yeah, totally, exactly. And that's what we're trying to tell the neighbor who's complaining. It's like, listen, we're only looking at 2. We can back out of here
Things
and
are
put 4
heating
if
up.
you want.
Well, you could put 8. You got 2
Put it at
lots.
8.
We're really gonna
So I
block the
think
view.
for like for instance, I got a client, the one on Blanchard here in Montecito, where his lot was kind of a weird configuration, but behind his main house, he has about another half an acre, which before you couldn't do a flag lot to open it up. Well, now with SB9, he can do that flag lot back there and have a lot in the back of it. So for certain situations, there's some benefit to it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the taxidermy club. I'm about to start to collect all the roadkill and
Alrighty, then you do a food truck?
Exactly.
Roadkill, Ben's Roadkill.
I have a few questions and I have a few things that I would like your answers on.
Okay.
What are your thoughts, generally speaking? We've had a couple people that have reached out. Their parents are getting older. Their parents have several stairs. Maybe it's a 2-story house. My parents in particular had a crazy driveway, and they ended up going to a 55 and older community. But in the case of moving your parents out to get maybe a 55 and older community, condo versus townhouse versus single family versus a mobile home. What are your thoughts on what's the best play, position, mobile home, townhouse, 55 and older? Does that matter? Does it not matter?
Well, I think it depends on your parents. I mean, one of the great things about senior communities are the activities in the community
It's a lifestyle.
themselves.
It's a lifestyle.
There's some really nice mobile home parks that have a great community center, lots of activities, interaction. Or you can go out to like the villages where you have golf, and all those other amenities. So, I mean, for me, is if I was to choose, one of those things, I'd say where there's the most activities and stuff to get me out of the house and out there breathing fresh air.
But there's no right or wrong.
Well, no. It's just like anything. It's specific to the client's needs, right? What are their needs and wants? I think for somebody in that situation, they got to look at what their retirement, medical, financial needs will be towards that kind of, end all game in their life, and the property that will support them the best to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one thing about mobile home park is that space rent could go up, right? So as you are budgeting and on a fixed income, the older you get, then that's that one kind of variable that you have to watch out for. Versus if you move into a condo townhome community, HOA could go up, but you can probably predict that a little better than you could space rent.
Yeah.
You don't hate the idea of mobile homes.
Not at all.
Ben, any final thoughts there?
No, I was gonna agree with the first part, Davis. I think it really has to do just with the person and the lifestyle they have, because there's so many different communities that offer just so many different activities. Whether it is like the villages, you want to golf, it's a perfect place to do it, and it's relatively cheap too. These 55 plus communities around this area, they're $750, $775 and below for some areas, and Morgan Hill's got some nice ones too.
Yeah,
if you want to
you're
be closer to a winery.
You're typically not going to get a lot of appreciation out of those places.
Correct, because they're limited.
Because they're limited, and the HOA is so high.
We just sold one earlier this year at the Villages. It was like, what, $600,000, $650 for a
Yeah,
two-bedroom?
we put Diane and her husband into a great unit. They love it there. They're very, very happy.
And how much was that? Around $600,000, right?
Yeah, I think it was less. I mean, we paid cash. It was like $560.
And that was earlier this year. So try to find another 2-bedroom condo for under
and those
$800,000
those one in the
on a golf course.
On a golf course.
Yeah, those one in the villages too. When we say like condo, they still have backyards. They have small
They're nice.
backyards.
Pretty big.
And they're all single story.
Yeah.
So you've got no stairs on the inside.
Yeah, and a lot of amenities too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
With a garage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the recent change in the market, my next question will go to you, Mark.
Except for the house.
How do you think a buyer's agent should best ask a listing agent for the buyer's repairs. Meaning your buyer wants new flooring, the plumbing is shot.
Yeah,
that sort of
great
thing. What do
question.
you
I think the
best-
first thing is make sure it's a legitimate repair to where you're not nickel and diming the situation, right? I'm representing the seller and I'm advising the buyer's agent.
You're representing the buyer. David will be representing the seller.
So, there's a couple different ways that you can do this. What I always try to do is be upfront with everything, right? Assuming that David, as I know is a great listing agent as he is, has done all of his inspections and everything else, I'm going to sit down with my buyer. I'm going to educate my buyer about the issues. I'm going to educate them on the cost of those issues. A lot of times buyers will over-exaggerate certain expenses, right? And get the buyer to where they're educated of the process, and then look at the ones that we have to have taken care of, right? I mean, if there's bathroom floors that are shot, something like that, but my client might want to remodel it themselves, I'm not going to ask for that scenario. But if we do narrow it down to ask those, I'm going to be upfront with them and ask for them. In my offer, being careful of ensuring that we don't have a problem with the lender.
So let me ask you this question then: If would you rather ask for a credit for repairs, or do you want to take money off of the purchase price?
It depends on my client's situation, right? Their financial situation. I like just reducing the price on the property because that's going to lower their property tax and all those other things. On the other hand, if they're limited on cash and they need that cash to be able to fund it, I'll ask for the cash. But then again, I got to be careful of the lender requirements too, to ensure that it's up to a certain amount and it's for non-recurring closing cost, basically.
Because you can get a seller credit to the buyer.
Right.
Outside of the purchase price, you can get a price reduction of the total price, or you can have the sellers fix it.
Correct.
I personally found that when you ask someone else to fix it, usually you have one standard of doing something and you have another, and it's never...
Well, and from the seller standpoint, you want to take it off their plate, right? I mean, the seller doesn't really want to get caught up in it. The seller's going to be concerned about, well, if I start opening things up, am I going to be at further liability of other issues, right? So I think it's educating that buyer really what the expectations are. Now, if you're in contract and you happen to find other issues that pop up, then again, it's just making sure, I have just a straight shooter mentality with the listing agent, not in any BS. Here's what's going on. I'll have something to back that up from a contractor, someone to say, listen, this has to be taken care of. And now that we're giving you this information, if you don't give it to us and you decide not to sell it to us, it's going to be a disclosure issue for the next buyer. Does that answer your question?
I think it's good.
Cool. Yeah.
And if someone asks you for a credit and they had their property contingency in place and everything, what do you usually tell? Either your seller or the buyer's agent.
They want a credit?
They want $20,000 off of their purchase price.
And they've already removed contingencies?
No, they still have them.
Okay, we're in contract.
You're in contract. The house is a little beat up.
Yeah.
And you maybe used kind of a generic home inspector.
Doesn't matter.
And they got their own inspection. They found some more things. It's $20,000 they're asking for.
Yep. So I'm always going to fight for my seller's money. So the first thing I'm going to do, if we have competing home inspections, I'm going to get both home inspectors out there to figure out which one's right. Because if, to Mark's point earlier, if it is something new that was undisclosed or undiscovered by an inspection, then it's valid and we can work something out. But don't just go get another home inspector and expect us to automatically give you a credit for something. What we found a lot of times is that we will identify a problem and then they'll send a contractor or somebody in there and just overbid the thing to try to jack up the amount of credit that we give them. I just had this situation, the house I sold on Rhoda. Our home inspection said, there's a busted waste pipe underneath there. Yep. There's waste in the ground. I even put in there a bid from a plumber for $6,000 to clean it up. And then the buyer's agent came back and wanted like $15,000, $20,000 credit. So.
And what did you tell them?
Ben knows what I told him because he listened to the phone call.
It was a wild conversation.
I ended up buying a $590 home warranty for that buyer, and that was all the credit we did.
Yeah.
Well done.
I think the one thing to keep in mind when we're dealing with residential real estate, there's a certain amount of goodwill that you need to keep between the parties. And nothing, from representing a seller standpoint, nothing will kill any negotiations more than somebody who's coming in, being unreasonable, who is simply throwing out a negotiation tactic just to throw out a negotiation tactic to get money. That does not work in our
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
but it happens.
Sometimes you'll get away with it, but once you work with someone more than once or twice, but to not be transparent from the get is just shooting yourself
I got to
in the foot.
tell you, I fired one of my investment clients one time. It was a flip opportunity that he was walking into. Seller's wife just passed away. This guy's in his 90s, the seller at this point. And the day prior to close of escrow, my client, my buyer, calls me up and says, I wanted to hit him with $20,000 off the price, or else we're not going to close. I told him, I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. You go find somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in this business, a lot of what you have is your reputation, right?
100%.
And-
And if you start pissing off, and not just with our clients, but with our industry, with our other professionals in the industry, right? I mean, if you get that reputation,
Yeah.
good luck even having somebody answer your phone call on a potential.
I was just going to say we should do a whole podcast on agents that try to negotiate deals without even letting their client know what's going on.
Oh man,
Right?
come on.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a couple
Yeah.
of agents I know
Yep.
when I say, hey, you know what, our buyer would like this or something like that, they'll say, oh yeah, I talked to my clients, they don't want to do it.
Yeah,
I know
BS.
it's BS.
Totally.
Yeah. And one thing that I've been noticing that's keeps coming up, at least with me, is that when I'm representing a buyer, a lot of the sellers are speaking for their clients, and it's not up to you as the listing agent, right? Make sure that if you're submitting forms, that maybe they're checking the box that says like, you know, I don't agree, or there's something in writing, because I just had a friend that unfortunately didn't use me. Her agent countered her own offer.
Yeah.
Because the does that make sense? Like the listing agent's not even getting back to them, or they're not even actually sharing with their seller.
That's
Hey,
where they're negotiating with themselves.
Right.
Right. Where they're. Yeah.
So you need to remove yourself from the transaction. But
I think that's what I just said about
Yeah.
agents that negotiate without going to their client with
yeah,
the terms that the other person asked
just
for.
said
Oh,
it no
dude,
longer
we
was
should
right.
do a
Yeah.
podcast, and that's all about that.
hey, wait,
That.
David
sounded awesome.
David just said that.
All right.
Anyway,
I have one more.
all right,
if you'd
let's
like
hear
to
it.
hear.
Go ahead.
Please.
This
please.
one's for Ben, but then all of you.
Wow.
The situation is that someone right now, with the fluctuation of interest rates and decrease of prices, is right on the border of being able to afford a single family or a townhouse. They work at Apple. They love the aspect of not having to commute super far from like South San Jose, but they're concerned that if they were to buy a townhouse in this market, that they may not have the appreciation down the road because they see themselves there for another 5 to 7 years, that they're not going to have the same appreciation as they may have with a single family. What would you tell them?
Well, my question to the buyer, great question, and I would ask the buyer question. I would say to them, how much time are you willing to give to get to where you want to be? And again, if you were to put down the mortgage and whatever you're putting down every month for 5 years, you're going to be able to take all of that money and move it right into the next home. So why not take the time to build that and then move it over? There never has to be a rush if you see yourself living in this area for more than 5 years. There's no rush to when you can get to that single family home. And if there really is a pressing issue and you need that single family home, I would have a very serious conversation with your lender or tax advisor on how you can figure out a way to financially make that happen.
So I'll chime in. So here's the deal. We know single family homes will always appreciate better than a townhome. Definitely, right? So in your question, I have a question for you. Are these properties the same square footage? Right? Is it a 2,000 square foot house compared to a 2,000 square foot townhome,
I'd
or is
say
it generally a
they're-
2,000 square foot townhome compared to a 1,000 square foot
I
house?
think they're both around 1,200 square feet, but
Okay.
one has a backyard and one doesn't.
Yeah, and,
one
and
has
they're
an
about,
HOA, one doesn't.
but they're the same price.
Yeah, right around a million.
I would advise my client to go over the single family
and
home all
just
day
suck
long.
up the commute.
And here's
Sure.
and so my question to them would be, do you care about lifestyle or appreciation?
Right. True. Absolutely.
Right? So which one's more important? Because if you care about lifestyle and you want to be closer to your job and you like Cupertino's downtown area, that makes you happy for 5 to 7 years, knowing that you're going to make 3% less appreciation or whatever than a single family home. If that's more important, do that. If all you care about is how much money you're going to net 5 years from now, you know, like Mark said, and you want to suck up that commute and spend an hour and a half a day in traffic every day for the next 5 years to make an extra $25,000, then do that.
I think the good thing is there's no right or wrong. The bad thing is there's no right or wrong. It's just literally how
Well,
you feel.
Again,
But
it's up to
people
the
try
individual. It's
Yeah.
a case by case basis, right? It truly is. And listen, at the end of the day, and it's something we're seeing right now with this change in the market, we go back to Real Estate 101, and what drives, other than inventory and everything, it's location, location, location. So to your point, that condo, if it's right next to Apple or next to Facebook, that thing could soar quite a bit more than that single family home if we're talking down to South San Jose or Santa Teresa.
But in the same breath, it was really interesting to see the crazy rise of condos and townhouses in 2018, I believe it was.
Sure.
They were barely able to break even in 2021.
What do you mean by break even?
Meaning if they bought for $1 million,
got it.
they either sold for slightly less
Right.
or right at $1 million.
Right.
Wow.
Well, and the reason why that there was so much activity in that market in 2018, it was affordable housing.
Yeah.
And
so with loan limits going up a little bit, I feel like a lot of people are being put in that position again to be like, hey, I'm right on.
well, that's what they, again, like to David's point, what's their lifestyle situation? Are they a young family and they need to have a backyard to grow and all of that stuff, or what's the situation?
Yeah, I think it's really important as expert advisors to our clients that we lay out all those scenarios.
Absolutely.
It's not for us to make it. I always tell a client, I don't have to live in this house. It's not up to me, because they ask, what do you think of this house?
Right.
I'm like, well, let's look at all your options. Let's look at why it would make sense and why it might not, because I think where a lot of agents get short-sighted is they want to hurry up and make a sale. Right? And so they'll look for, well, you know what, this townhome's been on the market longer. It's going to be an easy deal. I don't want to deal with that single-family home down south, or I don't know the market. So let's just get this one.
Yeah, David, one of the things I love about what we do is we position ourselves as advisors, right? It's not a matter of what we want. We're never going to walk through a property and try to sell that property to you. We're going to look at what your situation is. We're going to educate you the same level that we are to where they can make the best decisions possible. And it's their decision. We're just here to guide them along the way, right? I don't think any of us, I know none of us are ever going to walk through a property and be like, oh my God, you got to see this walk-in closet, or you got to see the island, or, it's a matter of, we found a house that should fit your needs. Let's take a look at it. And then let's tear it apart to make sure it's the right property for you.
Yeah, but if you want to get into the market this year, or maybe it's your goal next year, $600,000, $700,000, I mean, you're less than $30,000 to be able to buy something.
I know we're dragging this podcast out, but to your point, this is the time to go buy a piece of real estate in Silicon Valley and have pretty much, I'm not saying writing your own ticket, but it's a much better, it's easier now than it's been any time in the last 7 to 10 years.
Oh yeah, just wait from six months from now when we're talking about like, wow, remember when the market dipped for 6 months?
Right.
All those people that didn't take advantage?
Right. Yeah, I'll guarantee you, because we do cycle. And just like we're going down, we're going to be going back up.
It's not too good to be true. Just take advantage.
Yeah, and then rates are high, but so what? If you can afford it, refinance 6 months from now.
Date the rate,
anyway.
marry the house. Right.
If you buy a house today with a high interest rate, it should never be higher than it is today. Fair to say? I mean,
well, yeah, but you're already locking in a rate anyway.
Correct.
So it's what we do know is that rates will go down.
Yeah, they're not going to stay up for
Absolutely
30
not.
years. So.
All right. Wow.
Good stuff.
Great information.
By next week, we're going to be doing this podcast with 4 medals around our necks.
3.
Oh, Spartan 3.
We got the Spartan race coming up.
I'll be rooting you guys on.
Yeah.
I don't like burpees.
Me too.
All right, so guess our weight without going over. Do we want to give them a clue?
No.
Aaron, what are you coming in at right
It's
now?
a horrible. No.
No, let them guess, man. They can see us. So, camera adds 20
Do we got to
pounds.
stand
Just
up?
remember that.
Do we
Camera
gotta
adds
stand up
20
for the end of the podcast?
Oh, my God. Here we go.
Get a good look.
Jesus Christ.
Get a good look.
Oh, I'm stuck.
Who's pregnant?
Yeah.
All right. So
On that note.
that's right. They get a carriage ride during the
And
Light
a ticket
Festival.
to Fantasy Alliance.
And rename our podcast.
Yeah,
Right?
please.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
All right, guys.
Take
Bye.
care.
See ya.
See ya.